All right, time to dive into some AI on AWS. We're going to be exploring the AWS Certified AI Practitioner Exam Guide.
Oh, cool.
And it's actually more interesting than it sounds.
Okay.
So they explain everything through this story about a scientist, Sarah. She's teaching her nephew, Ethan. He's like 12, all about AI.
I like that. Makes it approachable.
Yeah, it totally works.
Yeah.
So they use this, like remember learning to ride a bike. They use that as an example to explain the difference between AI, ML, and deep learning.
Ah, clever.
But
Because it is a lot about taking something complex and making it understandable, right?
Yeah.
And that's what this guide does well, even for someone like Ethan who's just getting started.
exactly, like remember with deep learning, it's all about machines kind of learning on their own, going beyond just the rules you program.
Right, like they highlight how that's similar to when you finally stop thinking, okay, push this pedal, then this one, and you just get it. It just clicks.
Riding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not consciously following instructions anymore. You're adapting and improving as you go.
And that's what those deep learning models are doing, right?
Exactly. They're not static. They keep learning and getting more nuanced over time. Like the more you ride, the smoother you get.
Hmm.
Maybe you start topping wheelies. It clicked for me how that's similar to these models.
I like that. And the guide, it doesn't just stay super technical either.
Yeah.
It brings it all back to real world stuff.
Mm.
Like if you ever noticed online stores, how they seem to know what you want before you do.
Oh, yeah. Recommendations, right?
AI recommendations. They even talk about fraud detection, which obviously affects everybody, and those chatbots that pop up everywhere online.
Which that's a perfect example of how AI is not about replacing us, but supercharging what we can do. Imagine a chatbot that never sleeps answering thousands of questions at once perfectly. That's AI scaling solutions beyond what we could ever manage ourselves.
Okay, that's actually super helpful to think about it that way. But what about actually building these AI systems? That still feels kind of like magic to me.
That's where this guide really shines, I think. Remember those Legos we were talking about? Well, they use building with Legos as a metaphor for the AI development process.
Hold on, building AI is like playing with Legos. How does that even work?
Think about it. First, you need the right pieces. Right. So that's your data collection phase, gathering all the information, all those colorful bricks your AI is going to learn from. But you can't build anything with a giant unsorted bin of Legos, can you?
So data preparation is like making sure all your Legos are clean and sorted, ready to go.
Yeah.
No building a masterpiece with dusty, jumbled up bricks.
Exactly. And even then, you wouldn't use every Lego brick you own for every creation. You choose the ones that make sense for that specific model, right?
You're saying how we choose and prepare our data is as important as the data itself.
100%. And then, once you've got your data sorted and prepped, it's time to build. That's the model training phase where the magic really starts to happen.
So we've gathered all our Legos, we sorted them, cleaned them. Now we actually get to build something awesome, right? This model training bit. It's like teaching the AI, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like when you were first figuring out how to balance on that bike, all those wobbly moments, trying to find your center of gravity.
I remember those days.
Model training is kind of like that, except instead of gravity, the AI is trying to make sense of all that data we were talking about.
So it's like experimenting, seeing what works, adjusting, trial and error.
You got it. And the more data it processes, the better it gets at finding patterns and making predictions, just like you got better with practice on your bike.
Okay, that makes sense. But the guide also mentions this thing called hyperparameter tuning. That sounds kind of intimidating, like something out of Star Trek.
Uh-huh. It's not that crazy. Think of it like fine-tuning a race car.
Okay.
You've got your engine, your tires, your aerodynamics. But to get peak performance, you got to tweak all those little settings, right?
Right, like adjusting the spoiler, the tire pressure, getting the absolute best out of the car.
Exactly. In AI, those tweaks are your hyperparameters. They're like the knobs and dials we adjust to help the model learn from the data in the most efficient way possible.
So a well-tuned AI model can make all the difference in performance, just like with that race car.
100%.
So we've trained our model, it's ready to race. What happens then?
Time to unleash it on the world. That's the deployment phase, like taking your AI creation out of the playroom and letting it, actually do something.
So going from this cool experiment to something people can use.
Exactly. And there are a couple of ways to do this. One is through a managed API service. Sounds complicated, but think of it like a dedicated bike path for your AI. AWS handles all the infrastructure, makes it super easy for others to access and interact with your model.
So smooth riding for everyone.
Right. And then the other option is self-hosting. It's more like You're choosing to ride your bike wherever you want. You have more freedom and control, but
More responsibility too, right?
yeah, exactly. More control often means you're handling more of the maintenance and upkeep yourself, just like in the real world, right?
Right. Makes sense. And of course, no matter where our AI is cruising, we got to make sure it stays in tip-top shape.
Yeah.
That's where monitoring comes in.
100%. Monitoring is like regular checkups for your AI. We keep an eye on how it's performing, make sure there's no weird behavior going on. We got to make adjustments along the way, just like you'd fix a flat tire or oil your bike chain, keeping things running smoothly.
I'm really liking this Lego analogy.
Mm-hmm.
Helps me actually visualize the whole AI development process.
Mm.
But the guide also goes into some of the specific AWS services for AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
What makes them so special?
Oh, this is where AWS really brings the heat. They've got this whole suite of AI tools. It's like having a whole Lego factory at your disposal.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. A Lego factory for AI. You got to tell me more.
Well, take Amazon SageMaker, for instance. It's like the ultimate AI toolkit. Pre-built algorithms, infrastructure for training and deploying models, even a collaborative space so teams can work together. It's like having all the right Legos, a spacious workbench, and a bunch of helpful assistants all in one spot.
No more running around trying to find the right piece. That's amazing. But what about more specific tasks? Like if I want my AI to, I don't know, understand language.
They've got you covered there, too. Amazon Transcribe can convert speech to text, which is super useful for stuff like analyzing customer calls or generating subtitles. Then you've got Amazon Translate, which does exactly what it says, translates languages with crazy accuracy.
Wow, that's wild. So I can make my AI multilingual, no problem. What else can these AI Legos do?
Let's say you need your AI to understand the actual meaning behind the words, not just the words themselves. Amazon Comprehend can analyze text for sentiment, pick out key phrases, even extract specific info like dates or locations.
It's like an AI detective.
Yeah.
Sifting through all that text and finding what's actually important. That's seriously impressive.
Yeah.
It really seems like AWS took all these cool AI concepts and just made them accessible, easy to use.
That's the whole point. They've democratized AI, making it possible for anyone to build really sophisticated applications, even without needing a PhD in machine learning.
I love that.
And speaking of democratizing AI, the guide actually spends quite a bit of time on this whole generative AI thing.
Oh, yeah. Generative AI. That's the tech behind all those AI art generators and those chatbots everyone's talking about, right?
Yeah.
That's the stuff that seems almost too good to be true.
It definitely has captured everyone's imagination, and for good reason. But the guide makes it clear, generative AI, it's more than just a buzzword. It has the potential to completely transform entire industries.
So it's more than just making cool images or playing with chatbots. This generative AI stuff has real-world uses.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, the guide even mentions how it can generate text that's nearly impossible to tell apart from something a human wrote. Imagine what that could do for things like content creation, marketing, even writing code.
Okay, now that is a game changer. But how do we make sure these AI models are actually doing what we want? I mean, it's one thing to have them generating all this stuff.
Yeah.
But how do we actually, communicate with them, give them instructions?
That's where prompt engineering comes in. Think of it like learning to speak the AI's language, giving it the right cues to get the results you're looking for.
Like talking to a super smart friend who's also, really literal. You got to be specific.
You got it. And the guide does a good job of breaking it all down, different types of prompts, the potential pitfalls, even how to craft those prompts to get the best possible responses from the AI.
So it's less about, hardcore coding and more about having a conversation. We're guiding the AI to the results, not just programming them in.
Exactly. And the guide really brings it back to the bigger picture here. Building AI isn't just about those technical skills, it's also about learning to work with these systems.
That makes a lot of sense. The more we get how AI thinks, the better we can use it to solve problems.
Yeah.
And create cool stuff. This has been amazing. We went from AI 101 all the way to this mind-blowing generative AI stuff.
And we've only scratched the surface, but hopefully this guide's giving you a good starting point for understanding the power of AI on AWS.
It definitely has. And this guide makes one thing really clear. This whole field is changing so fast. It's not enough to just learn a set of skills. We've got to be ready to keep learning, keep adapting.
Couldn't agree more. Remember that thought-provoking question they asked at the end of the guide? They wondered if AI can become so advanced it could actually design ethical frameworks, rules for good behavior that are even better than the ones humans have come up with.
Whoa, now that's something to think about. It's almost like this guide isn't just about how to build AI. It's also making us think about what AI means for us in the future. How do we shape that future responsibly?
Exactly. And that's what I love about these deep dives. It's not just about filling our heads with facts, it's about asking those big questions, getting curious, and exploring all the possibilities.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So
Yeah.
on that note, we're going to leave you with that final thought. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into AI on AWS. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking those big questions.